Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, SuperBake. Let's talk about stuff. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. So, as always, I'm going to try to start this off with just what I've been doing, just kind of a quick catch up on just some games or movies or shows I've been watching, and then I'll kind of get into the meat of what this episode's going to be. I said last time I've been playing the old Metal Gear Solid series. I've actually finished the first two, and now I'm on Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and it's just been awesome. I completely understand the love these games have gotten. Snake Eater is definitely my favorite of the three. Going from the first Metal Gear Solid game to the second one, I definitely noticed a huge improvement, just pretty much in every respect. The graphics, even being on a PS2, it still looks, pretty decent by today's standards. But the gameplay, the characters, the story, everything is just so much better between one and two. But three is just phenomenal. And again, for being a PS2 game, it is amazing to me how good it looks. Granted, it's the HD version, so I understand that they probably made some improvements on the graphics and stuff, but just like the gameplay, I like how in depth it is with how you handle different situations, the different weapons you have, the attachments they have, like how you can remove suppressors from guns. I like how you can take out animals and use them to recover your stamina. How you can cure Snake using like different like bandages, sutures, things like that as you get like injuries on your body. There's even this interesting mechanic they threw in there where, like, you get leeches because 'cause you're in, like, the jungle, I guess, and, like, if you swim through the water, you get, like, leeches on yourself, and you gotta use, like, your cigar to, like, burn them off. That was a really cool little detail that they threw in there, so the everything about the game is just really awesome, like, I'm really enjoying it, and my plan is to once I'm done with that, I don't have a copy of Metal Gear Solid 4. I believe that is a exclusive for the PS3, so I don't have that, so I'll probably just watch a recap video for that on YouTube. But then once I'm done with all that, I'll probably just jump right into Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain and also Ground Zeroes because I think that comes out. I think technically that was before Phantom Pain. The general consensus I've gotten looking up online from like my research is that you're supposed to play them in the order of release, even though that's not the chronological order of the story. So, but really enjoying that series so far. As far as shows I've been watching, I finished the anime series Moonrise on Netflix recently. It was okay. I'm not gonna give, like, a super in-depth review on it, I'll just give my general thoughts, but, I mean, it was pretty good overall. It was from the same studio, I think it was Wit Studio that did the animation for Attack on Titan, which I really enjoyed, and I definitely saw their style in this show, it definitely looked like something like a studio that would work on Attack on Titan, but story-wise, I didn't think it was that compelling, I guess. Like, the characters were okay, Jack Shadow was alright, Reese, she was, I guess, kind of okay. The whole thing with, like, that giant, like, blob or whatever that was, like, going around and, like, um, that one character, I can't remember her name, was it Mary? Who could kinda control it. It was really weird, like, I'll be honest, like, I probably was just too dumb to pay attention to it, I didn't really quite understand that whole stuff that was going on there, like, Jack was, like, part of, like, the SEED project or something, it was really weird, but overall, it was okay. I wasn't super into it. I think the whole season was like 18 episodes. It didn't really leave a lasting impression on me, and that seems to be the general consensus I've gotten online is that people just kinda think it's okay. As far as I'm aware, there's no plans for a second season. I don't know how far the manga series goes, but, I mean, I guess if you like good animation, you might wanna check it out, but I don't know. Nothing about it really amazed me or wowed me. It had some pretty cool action sequences and stuff like that, but just I don't know if I just didn't understand the story. It just seemed a little convoluted for my taste, so I just wasn't really that into it, but regardless, I mean, I'm sure there's probably something in there for some people, like, it's kind of a space opera, so I think you might dig it in that regard. But anyway, tonight we'll get into the main topics, which is gonna be my spoiler review for the new film 28 Days Later that came out, and then I'll also be giving my thoughts on the trailer for the new Resident Evil Requiem game, also Resident Evil 9, I believe. So, first I'll get into 28 Years Later, so directed by Danny Boyle, who also directed 28 Days Later as well as 28 Weeks Later. Written by Alex Garland, who I think also worked on those films as well with Danny Boyle. Apparently, Killian Murphy came back to be an executive producer for this film. He's not actually in the movie, but Killian Murphy, for anyone who hasn't seen the original, was in the first 28 Days Later. It's kind of the movie that I think really kind of jump started his career. At least that was the first real big movie that I saw him in growing up. So, film stars Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, hope I'm saying her name right, Alfie Williams, and then Ray Fiennes. There's also another star in the movie that I kind of want to hold off on revealing who it is until I get to that part of the story when I talk about it. Apparently, this was shot back to back with a sequel called The Bone Temple, which is supposed to release in January of next year. And apparently, the filmmakers are trying to make a trilogy. I guess that's the rumor. Supposedly, this was stuck in production hell since I think roughly between 2010 to 2011. There were already plans back then to work on a sequel to 28 Weeks Later, and it was going to be 28 months later. But then I guess because of the amount of time that it took, I guess it just kept getting pushed back, and they kept having trouble, I guess, finding the right team to work on it. That eventually, by the time it got greenlit, like in I think the early 2020s, it didn't really make much sense, I guess, to call it 20 months or 28 months later at that point. So now it's called 28 years later. I was kind of curious about that because I remember when I saw the title, I kept thinking like, yeah, that's right. We never did get 28 months later. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they made that jump. But I guess it does make sense. It's kind of crazy. I think 28 days later came out like in 2002. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a couple decades. But I'll just kind of go over the plot of the movie just briefly. So basically, there's this group of people that live on this island off the mainland of England. Aaron Taylor Johnson and his son Spike, who's played by Alfie Williams. Basically, Aaron, and I can't remember the name of his character in the movie, but he wants to take Spike onto the mainland, basically to teach him how to find supplies, how to forage for different things that they need for the island. It can be things that they can sell that are valuable, but mostly it's just like for resources that they need. Um, and but the thing is, like on the mainland, the virus is still very much active, and they're aware of this, so they have to be very careful when they go. So like they use things like bows and arrows. They try to be very quiet when they go back there. It kind of made me think of The Last of Us in a sense with the bow and arrow, especially like in The Last of Us Part Two. Although I think that the first half of this movie, I think actually did it much better. Jodie Comer plays Spike's mother, who she seems to be very sick in the movie. She seems to be unwell both mentally and physically. Like she's in bed a lot. She doesn't seems like she gets headaches quite a bit, and Spike doesn't really know what's wrong with her. Nobody else seems to know. They don't really have a doctor in the town, and Spike's really, he's really upset about that. Um, and when they go into the mainland, they discover that there are mutated versions of the zombies in the mainland, including what they call alphas, which are like these big giant zombies that are like super strong and stuff. And all that stuff, like this is all like basically like the first half of the film. And the first half of the film to me is fantastic. Like it is probably the best part of the movie in my personal opinion. Like all the stuff with Aaron Taylor Johnson teaching Spike how to hunt, how to avoid detection from the zombies, how to deal with the different versions of the zombies. It's all done very well. Like that stuff is really great. This is actually kind of what I wanted from The Last of Us Part 2. It's really the second half of the movie that I kind of have the biggest problem with. And it's going to be hard to talk about this stuff without really getting into major spoilers. So just kind of a heads up. I mean, if it wasn't clear already, I'm going to be talking about spoilers anyway. But the first half of the movie is basically like Spike and his father. Spike's kind of learning the ropes, trying to figure out how to survive on the mainland. And then the second half of the movie is Spike discovers that there's a doctor on the mainland, who everyone kind of avoids because like he does weird stuff with the corpses and things like that. So it's Dr. Kelson, who's played by Ray Fiennes, and everyone kind of avoids him. Like Spike's father, he tells him like, he's weird, nobody wants to go near him. He kind of creeps everybody out. But he's like the only doctor that Spike knows of, and nobody knows what's wrong with Spike's mom, and he wants to know what's happening to her. So the second half of the movie is basically Spike taking his mom to the doctor to try to see if he can diagnose her and see what's wrong with her. And the second half of the movie just feels like it takes it such a huge tonal shift from the first half. And I'm going to be honest, I was not a big fan of that. Like the first half was fantastic. Like seeing the different mutated versions of the zombies, like the fat ones that crawl on the ground and they eat like worms out of the ground because that's like the only thing they can get. Like that, those things are really creepy looking. They're just like these fat just blobs that all they can do is they can't run because they're so big and fat that they just kind of crawl around. Like that shit was scary. And then like the alpha zombies are fucking terrifying. Dude, when those bastards showed up, that was genuinely creepy. Like when Spike and his father are about to go back to the island they live on, they see like the alpha and a bunch of other zombies like are standing on the hill watching them. And then the alpha roars and they all come charging at them. Like that was fucking terrifying. Like everything involving those zombies was really good. And also, I think I forgot to mention this. So the island that they live on, the only way they can get back to the mainland is there's like this land bridge that appears when there's low tide, and it only shows up for a brief period of time. So they have to wait for the tide to go down so they can walk across to get onto the mainland. Well, there is a scene in the movie, and it's like my favorite scene in the entire film, where the father and son, Spike, are running back on the land bridge, and they're being pursued by one of the alphas. And this bastard is just barreling down on them. And the tide's low, but it's not super, it's not receded quite all the way like when they first walked across, but it's enough that they can at least kind of run across the water, albeit slowly. And they get about halfway there, and this alpha is like charging right behind them. And it's like right at the crack of dawn, so like the stars are still out and you can see them reflecting on the water. And just the shot of that, the cinematography of that scene was just fantastic. Like everything in the first half is great. Like the tension is fantastic. Like when they're going through like these dilapidated buildings and they see that one zombie that's like tied up and stuff, it's like so creepy the way it's all done. And then the second half of the movie just feels like that is where like it feels like the characters make some pretty stupid decisions. Like the main character Spike, he decides to, against his father's wishes, take his mom onto the mainland to find Dr. Kelson so he can see if he can maybe help her, even though his father doesn't want him to do it. So he takes her in secret. What I didn't like about that, well, one of the things I didn't like about that, that didn't make sense to me was this is literally like his second time going on the mainland, and now suddenly Spike is capable. He's able to navigate and find his way around, even though his father had to help him do that in the first half. That did not make any sense to me. Plus, just logically, you're taking your mother, who it has been established is sick. She's not mentally well. She seems to have bouts where she just yells and screams. And you're going to take her onto the mainland where you know that you had to be quiet and sneak around. Like, what in the hell makes you think that this is a good idea? This seems like the dumbest idea you could possibly have, to do as a character. So that whole thing just really took me out of the movie. Like, I couldn't get past like just how dumb and that was, and it just didn't make sense to me. Like, that's not something that I would do. And even though, like, yeah, Spike's not suddenly a badass, he's not suddenly taking out zombies and stuff with headshots right and left, but he does seem to be a bit more capable on the second day. That's the other thing too, is just the amount of time. It's like I feel like this is something that would take weeks, if not months, maybe even years for him to get to this point where he would be comfortable doing this. I get it for the sake of time. They had to hurry this along, but this just kind of felt like needless tension for me. I guess I could get behind the whole thing with his mom being sick and him trying to help cure her, but that just didn't make sense to me. And then we get to the part where he runs into this character. There's like this eventually he runs into this character named Eric, who I think is supposed to be I think he's this soldier, a Navy soldier from Sweden, I believe. I was not a fan of this character at all. I didn't really quite understand the purpose that he served, other than to be, I guess, sort of comic relief, I guess. I like the whole idea that like the rest of the world is still kind of like they're still kind of technologically advanced. Like he pulls out a smartphone and then Spike's never seen one before because he lives on this island where like they're because of the virus and because like the United Kingdom and stuff has kind of been cut off from the rest of the world because they've been quarantined. I like that he doesn't know what the smartphone is. Like he sees it and the guy's kind of trying to explain to him like, yeah, it's like a radio, but like with pictures and stuff. I was like, that's kind of funny. But yeah, like Eric's character, I thought he was kind of dumb, kind of annoying, kind of a jackass. Like at first he kind of seems like he's going to be somewhat endearing, but then he just turns into a complete jackass, so I was not a fan of that. And then like there's this scene with this alpha that's chasing them. And then we're finally introduced to Ray Fiennes' character who plays Dr. Kelson. And his whole bit in the movie is pretty interesting. Like he's studying the infected. He's actually you kind of think the direction I thought this movie was going to go in is I thought they were going to make Dr. Kelson like the villain or one of the villains of the movie. But instead he's actually kind of this misunderstood character who, as he seems to put it, he studies I guess death in a way. He has this reverence for death. Like he honors death both for like people who are infected and people who aren't infected. And he creates like this monument made out of like these human skulls, which I guess is supposed to be like the bone temple, which I mentioned before. So I don't know if the sequel is going to like maybe like kind of build upon that or something. I'm not really sure. But the scenes with him and Spike are actually pretty endearing. And we do get this pretty heartfelt scene with Spike's mother where Dr. Kelson actually does give his diagnosis of her. And I like that despite admitting that he doesn't have any diagnostic equipment, he thinks that she has, cancer and that it's spread to her brain, which explains like why she forgets things, why she has bouts of screaming, and why she has continuous nosebleeds. So that stuff with her and Dr. Kelson, I actually thought was handled pretty well. It was actually a pretty heartfelt moment between the two of them, and Spike having to come to terms with the fact that his mom is going to die, and there's really nothing that he can do to stop it. I guess my biggest problem is just it just didn't seem realistic to me that this kid who's supposed to be, I think they said he's 12, somehow has the ability to get his mom all the way to this place by himself, despite being in a place that he's not familiar with and is surrounded by a bunch of zombies, including big ass ones that will quite literally tear his ass apart. So, yeah, that stuff I couldn't really get behind. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There were a couple scenes in this movie that really just almost made me laugh with how ridiculous they were. Like there's one scene where Spike and Dr. Kelson are hiding from one of the alphas that I believe Kelson nicknames Samson, I believe, and they're hiding underground. And the zombie literally busts his hands through the ground, grabs Kelson, and starts slamming him against like the ceiling of the room that they're in. I'm sorry, when I saw that, I had to try so hard not to bust out laughing. That just seemed like something like a cartoon. Like, it was so fucking stupid. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, I like Dr. Kelson's character. Ray Fiennes, I think he's a phenomenal actor. Like, he's great in everything that he's in, and I do think he does a pretty good job of bringing some humanity to the character, as well as, like, kind of like how he respects death. Like, he teaches Spike about the Latin saying "memento mori," about remember that you're going to die. So it's like there's like this reverence for death, like he respects death, he honors it. So that stuff is fine. I didn't have a problem with that. I guess it's just like how we got to it and just the tonal shift between the second half and the first half of the film. However, I have to talk about the final few minutes of the movie. And this is where shit just goes absolutely batshit nuts. So, in the beginning of the film, there is this character who's introduced whose name is Jimmy. He's this little kid. He's in like this church, and he and a bunch of these little kids, they're watching Teletubbies on TV. But it's very clear from the beginning that like something is not right. Like the kids all seem very nervous. They seem like very much on edge. And then as time goes on, we hear like stuff breaking downstairs. We hear like yelling and stuff, and the kids are getting more and more scared. And then eventually, a bunch of infected get in there and attack the kids. Fortunately, we don't see it happen. We don't see the violence against the kids, but it's pretty obvious what happens. And this kid named Jimmy gets away and runs into this church where his father is like the minister and he gets killed. I think this takes place in like the Scottish Highlands, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And his dad gets eaten by a bunch of or he gets attacked by a bunch of the infected. And the kid's like hiding and he somehow manages to survive. That kid Jimmy shows up at the very end of this film, and I completely forgot about him. I wasn't sure if he was supposed to be Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. That's kind of who I thought he was, but no, he's a completely different character. He's played by Jack O'Connell. Hope I'm saying his name right. Who actually played, I think it was Remick, the villain from Sinners. I recognized him immediately. He shows up at the very end of this movie when Spike is getting attacked by a bunch of these infected. And the best way I can describe this scene is he and a bunch of, I guess, basically like Power Rangers show up and just beat the shit out of a bunch of infected and save Spike's life, and he agrees to go with them. That's honestly the best part, the best way I can explain it. And I'm not shitting you. That's pretty much how the movie portrays it. Because I guess there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where Jimmy's character has like this Power Rangers action figure, and I really didn't know like I didn't think that it was going to have any significance in the plot, but apparently it does. Like they all have different like they're like color coordinated. Like there's like a one wearing a green jumpsuit, one wearing like a red jumpsuit. They are literally jumping in, doing flips, and taking out these zombies, and it is just like so fucking crazy. When I saw that, I was just sitting there thinking, like, I'm sorry, am I watching a 28 Days Later movie? This does not seem like something that would be in this kind of movie. Like, it is every bit as batshit nuts as it sounds. And the film basically ends on that. Like, the best way I can describe this movie is like, it feels like it is tonally all over the place. I have very mixed emotions on this film. On the one hand, like I said before, the first half is really good. I really like the stuff with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Spike teaching his son the ropes, when they're sneaking around on the mainland, and it's very creepy. It's very disturbing. There's a lot of like scenes with them trying to sneak around the infected, and you see the different versions of them as they've evolved, and some of them have gotten really weak and skinny and emaciated, but some of them have gotten really big, like the walkers. But that stuff is really cool. But then, like, the second half of the movie almost feels like a completely different movie when Spike is trying to take his mom back to the mainland. I wouldn't have minded if that was like its own film, but it feels so detached from the first half that like it was really hard to get on board with that. And again, just like you really have to suspend your disbelief. Like the idea that this 12-year-old kid who has never done this before, who it's established has only been to the mainland one time, somehow was going to take his mom to this doctor, even though he doesn't know anything about this person, other than seeing the campfire at night. He doesn't really know where the doctor is. For all he knows, the doctor couldn't even might not even be near the campfire. He might be somewhere else. So none of that shit really makes sense to me. And then the last few minutes of the film are just like absolutely just batshit nuts. I guess it's supposed to be setting up for the sequel, but like I'm going to be honest, I was not a fan of it. It for me, it did not click, and I think this is definitely going to be divisive for a lot of people. I haven't really seen a lot of reviews for this movie, so I don't really know how people have responded to the end of it. But for me, the conclusion of this movie definitely felt just really weird. I was not a big fan of it at all. And there were just some scenes like that just made me laugh. Like again, the part where the big alpha attacks Ray Fiennes, the stuff with the weird Power Ranger characters at the very end of the movie. It's all just it's so fucking weird. I could not get past any of it. So as far as like would I recommend it? I don't know. Like it's hard to recommend even if you're a fan of the original 28 Days Later because this feels so detached from that movie. This does not feel like something that would be in the 28 Days Later film series. So I guess like I don't know if Danny Boyle was supposed to be like if he was trying to take like a risk with this movie and trying to do something different, and maybe this is how Bone Temple is going to be. It definitely feels like they're taking the film series in a completely different direction that I don't know if I'm on board with. I mean, I'll be honest, I love 28 Days Later. I didn't like it at first, but it kind of grew on me over the years. 28 Weeks Later, I could take or leave it. It never really left much of an impression on me. This movie just feels like a very weird turn of events that I just don't know if I'm all on board with. So like I said, I'm very mixed on this movie. I mean, I guess if you're looking for something different, this is definitely going to give it to you. So I guess in that regard, maybe check it out and see what you think. But yeah, I don't know. The first half of this movie, I would say, is phenomenal. If you watch just the first half, I think you'll probably enjoy it. But man, the second half, I don't know. I really think you're gonna have to keep an open mind on that. So yeah, I don't know if I can recommend this movie or not. It's really tough. I'm mixed on this. Maybe as time goes on, maybe I'll come around to it. But right now, I just really don't know what to make of this movie. The ending is so fucking weird. All right. And with that, let's get into the trailer for Resident Evil Requiem. So, I've become a pretty big Resident Evil fan over the last few years with the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3 and 4. Freaking love those games. The 4 remake was just phenomenal. And I've also played the Resident Evil 7 and Village, and those games were also fantastic. So, I've been waiting pretty excitedly for a new Resident Evil game. I mean, I knew we weren't going to be playing, well, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't played Resident Evil 7 and 8, so I don't want to go into those games too much, but I was really curious to see like what direction they were going to take the story in with the new game. So this was announced at Summer Game Fest this year on June 6th. Apparently, we're not going to have to wait too long for it. Apparently, the release date is February 27th of 2026, so less than a year away. So that's not too bad. Even though I think it was announced that they were working on it, I think I think sometime last year. I don't know if they'd officially announced that it was Resident Evil Requiem at that point, but I think that they had pretty much revealed that they were working on it. So as far as the plot goes, this seems to follow FBI technical analyst Grace Ashcroft, who is investigating mysterious deaths at this hotel in Raccoon City where her mother died approximately 8 years earlier. Looked into it. Apparently, her mother was Alyssa Ashcroft, who was in Resident Evil Outbreak. So apparently, I guess this is supposed to follow the events after like Resident Evil 3, because I guess at the end of that game, I guess there was this big, a bunch of missiles, I guess, wipe out most of Raccoon City. And you see that in the trailer. There's actually like these big craters that I guess are left over from like the missile barrage from that game. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of like callbacks to previous Resident Evil games. I'm not going to lie, when I first saw the trailer for this, and this is kind of a spoiler a little bit for Resident Evil 7 and 8, I thought Alyssa was Rose for some reason from those games, Rose Winters, but apparently not. Um, Man, it's also wild to me just watching the trailer for this, like how good the graphics look. I mean, you can still tell obviously that these are video game characters; they're not real people. But like, I think they said the engine they used was the RE engine. So yeah, it's very impressive watching this. Like watching like the facial expressions of the characters as well as like the complexion of the characters too. Like where we're watching her talk to her boss, we're watching Grace talk to her boss, and like you can see like just like his the stubble on his face and stuff like that. Like that stuff just it's really impressive like how good games look now. So I like Grace as a character in this, just from like the little bit that we get from her character. It seems like she's kind of messy. She's kind of a workaholic. Like she's at her computer and she's just like it seems like she is just like laser focused on like whatever she's working on. So I like that aspect of her character. Like she definitely seems like she's kind of got this quirkiness to her that I think is going to make for an interesting underdog. So I like that. I think it's going to be interesting to see like kind of how she develops in this game when it releases. Like how is she going to go throughout this horror game? And it also kind of seems like this might be leaning more towards like the horror aspect of Resident Evil, which I'm actually all for. Like Resident Evil 2 was a good mix of horror and action, at least the remake that I'm going off of. And then Resident Evil 4 remake was just mainly action, not a lot of horror, but it was just so awesome. But then Resident Evil 7 felt like a return to form for the series where it focused more on the scary elements of the series. And then 8 was again kind of a return to action. So it'd be kind of cool if maybe this was like trying to be more of a scary game again, where maybe you have some weapons, but you have very limited ammunition. And especially with Grace's character, it definitely seems like she's an FBI analyst. So like, seems like she doesn't have a lot of field experience. She also seems very young. So maybe this could be the situation where she is like, this is the case that kind of gets her feet wet a little bit and gives her some real world experience. And so it makes sense that maybe she wouldn't really know, she wouldn't be that well versed in like combat other than what she's had in training. So that I think could also really help with the underdog story here. From what I heard, based on or what I read based on my research in this, it sounds like there is going to be another like monster chasing you, kind of similar to what you got with like Mr. X in previous games and Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil 8. So I think in the trailer we got to see a little bit of that. There's like this weird, kind of this black ghost creature. Looks like it's crawling around like on the walls and ceilings and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's supposed to be the monster that's chasing you. But yeah, it also looks like there's people in this city. I don't know if it's like Raccoon City trying to like rebuild itself, but it looks like we see like the virus spreading throughout that. We see like there's people that look like they're getting infected or getting bitten. So maybe we're going to see another outbreak in this game and then Grace has to deal with that. It's going to be interesting to see like what the story is. We didn't really get a whole lot as far as the story goes in this, other than seeing that it looks like Grace does end up going back there and then it flashes forward and she's strapped to like a bed, and it appears she's hanging upside down, and she's got like a gash in her chest too. So I'm kind of wondering like what happened there. Maybe it's similar to like kind of what happens with the character Ethan at the beginning of Resident Evil 7. Apparently, also this game is going to allow the player to switch between first person and third person view. So that's kind of cool too. I don't remember. I don't think any other Resident Evil game allowed that before. I think with Resident Evil 7 and 8, I know you could. I think they built a mod for 8 where you could switch to third person mode, but I don't think that that was ever an option in the base game that you could just do whatever you wanted. So that's kind of cool if that is something that they're going to include in this game. But yeah, I mean, I've really gotten into the Resident Evil series. So watching the trailer, I like the character Grace. I think she seems really quirky. She seems like she could be a good underdog character for this series. I like that she is connected at least to a character in a previous Resident Evil game and Outbreak, even though I never played that game personally, so I don't know really much about it. I don't really know a whole lot about the Resident Evil lore, if I'm being perfectly honest here. But the game looks very impressive. I like the graphics, even though I'm not going to be sold completely on the graphics. I mean, if the game is fun to play, that's going to be what I'm going to mainly grade it on. But it definitely looks like it's leaning more towards the horror element of the series. I mean, just based on this trailer, if this is any indication. But I'm going to kind of wait until we get like a gameplay trailer or at least some footage to kind of see like what it's really going to look like, in the finished product. But right now, this has me very excited. And again, we don't have to wait very long. February 27th of next year, it's going to get here faster than you think. So I'm going to be really excited for this game. All right, everyone. I think that's going to conclude tonight's episode. Once again, if you like what you heard, I am on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the show out a lot. I definitely appreciate all the support you guys have given me, and I'll catch you all next time. Take care, everyone.